Hello, good afternoon. Aaron Phillips and Elizabeth Cipolla here with Decision Associates. As we mentioned in our previous video, we're going to focus much of 2021 on consistently updating our clients and others, providing them access to our consultants on identifying and discussing areas that are impacting their business. And today we want to talk about culture. And recently, Elizabeth wrote an article, Want to Impact Your Bottom Line? Focus on your culture. Elizabeth, thanks for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what were you seeing? What were, with your clients that made you want to draft the article?
Sure, great question. And I'll tell you what, especially since March 2020, which, as we all know, it was the onset of the pandemic here in the US. One thing I've been seeing is a lot of very frustrated, nervous, and exhausted business owners and leaders who are trying to navigate a lot of unknown waters and therefore, encountering things that I'm sure many of our listeners today can relate to. And that would be issues with turnover, issues with trying to make sure you remain profitable or are still able to serve your stakeholders when you are dealing with navigating all the legislative changes, remote workers and staggered schedules and all the different expectations that are being thrust upon you as a leader. They were wanting to know, what can we do to navigate this? And one thing that occurred to me is, hey, this thing called organizational culture that we've been talking about for decades, that is the one thing that is a controllable, right? The one thing that, despite everything happening around us, is what we can control. So that's what really got my wheels turning and really inspired me not only to write this article, but to take that approach in terms of focusing on culture when trying to deal with all of the uncertainties swirling around us.
You've said organizational culture, decades, and everybody has talked about it. And certain people say, well, you can't quantify culture. But in the article, you say you've developed a way in working with clients on quantifying culture. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, I myself, even I'm thinking earlier in my career when I wanted to work on culture at my respective organizations where I worked before becoming a consultant, I remember, wanting to understand how we're doing when it comes to culture. And a common term that's thrown around that I'm sure many of our listeners have thrown around is, how's the morale? Well, you can it's a feeling, right? And you can ask questions and understand if people are happy or if people feel engaged, but you can't really quantify it in a meaningful way so that with laser sharp focus what exactly it is you need to work on, right? To improve in the areas you need to improve, or to keep it up in the areas where you're doing really well. And me myself, as a data driven person, especially when it comes to decision making within an organization, thought to myself, there's got to be a way to quantify it. And without taking up too much time or giving away too much of our secret sauce, I will tell you that by working hand in hand with the executive at the organization who is wanting to get an accurate pulse on exactly how they're doing with their culture, there are very targeted questions you can ask that are in alignment with the values your organization is trying to live, that are in alignment with the overall goals your organization is trying to reach. You can ask those questions and come up with a formula that I developed, come up with an actual overall culture rating. And from there, it gives you a snapshot of your current reality. And from there, you can know what to work on.
Excellent. So I'm thinking here and I'm watching the video and I'm saying, this sounds great, but I don't even know where to start. Where do you tell people you start? How do you, suggestions you have?
So I think a really good analogy to use when you think of where should I start is, think of, and it's the beginning of a new year, right? 2021. A lot of people make a resolution, let's say to lose weight or to become, more physically fit. Well, similar to that, you can't improve until you understand your starting point. So I would say the only place to start is to really do an assessment and understand exactly where you are starting from so that okay, here's what I need to do. Here are some low-hanging fruit based upon the quantification of our culture. Here are some low-hanging fruit areas that I can begin to tackle right away and build momentum and enthusiasm in my organization. And here are some longer term, things that I can focus upon improving as we continue to build that momentum. But all the while, as you're doing that, you're impacting your bottom line because you're working in areas that are directly taking away from what it is you're striving to achieve in the first place. Without understanding your starting point, you're really just, following your gut, which may or may not be accurate, and throwing things at the wall and hoping that you've picked the right areas to focus on. But by really tightening in the focus based upon exactly where your starting point is, then you can only lead to success from there if you choose to do something with that data, of course.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you very much. And for all those viewing, thanks for taking some time and to spend with Elizabeth and myself. We will continuously provide update and additional content throughout 2021 to educate and really give you access to ideas and areas that may be impacting your business. So thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.